Welcome back to After Hours at Blondie's, where we chit-chat away music and production and lifestyle and nightlife here in Vancouver.
Not lifestyle as in like swingers and shit. I mean, maybe we'll get to that, but
Maybe
that's not what she means.
Next episode. For this one, we are focused on music.
Yeah,
Thank you.
for this
portion.
For now.
And we have the lovely Joel West in the hot seat today.
Yeah.
Many, many years of production and music and DJing and creating. I'm so excited to introduce you to him right now.
Yeah.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah,
Really appreciate it.
welcome. Yeah.
Thank you.
It's our
Thank you.
honor and pleasure for sure. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So you have obviously are very established, but let's take it back.
Mm-hmm.
Let's take it all the way back. We're rewinding time. What do you remember as being the very first time that you realized that you were in love with music?
I would have been about 2.5 years old in a very small village in northern BC here in Canada. If you're watching from outside of Canada,
Mm-hmm.
it's the province we live in. And I would have been in Spider-Man underwear and nothing else.
It's a typical Friday for me.
Excellent.
Yeah, right?
Yeah.
Nothing's changed, really. And before my parents got up in the morning, getting up and putting on either a record or a tape and dancing on the couch, just like jumping up and down on the couch
Mhm.
as much as I could before they woke up.
Yeah.
Nice.
And it was just like, this is the most fun and the most awesome thing I can possibly do.
Yeah.
And then it's really just never stopped from there. I mean, there's been a whole bunch of waypoints along the way, like side missions,
Mhm.
if you're a gamer. But the through line is just, it's been there from the beginning. And I've always wanted to be involved with music in some way. And I've been lucky enough to always have a way to be involved right up to this point.
When was the light bulb moment for like when you're like, you know what, this is going to be what I do for my career? You know what I mean?
Well,
Yeah.
I think the light bulb moment for that was probably, in a real way,
Mm-hmm.
might have only been this year.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
I think
Mm.
I've had a lot of imposter syndrome
Right.
up to this point.
Uh-huh.
Even though I've been doing it
Yeah.
for quite some time and I'm
Mhm.
performing a lot and being out in front of people and getting paid for it.
Mhm.
That's all great. But it was really this year that I was like, I have all the pieces now.
Mhm.
I've released on labels that I've admired for years.
Mhm.
I've opened for DJs whose music that I play that I've
Mhm.
admired for years.
Mhm.
They treat me like an equal.
Mhm.
I've submitted music to their labels. They've accepted it. They've released it.
Mhm.
They've released my masters, which I was like, what? It was a huge surprise to me to have those accepted.
Very cool.
Thank you.
Mhm.
So when that started happening, I was like, well, how do I take this?
Yeah.
I can do this. Clearly all the pieces are there. Now what?
Yeah, because you've been doing this and something else
Yeah.
the whole time.
Yeah. And if
Yeah.
you live where we live in Vancouver,
Yeah.
which is a very expensive city,
Mhm.
you have to have maybe a lot of people have to do 3 or 4 things
Absolutely.
to survive the hustle. And
Yeah.
I've had to do that. I'm an actor. I work at the hospital. I've taught at SAE Institute, taught music. I teach DJ and production lessons privately.
Mhm.
I DJ, I make music, and I run a label.
Yeah.
So like,
Yeah.
That's a lot of things
Yeah. There's a
on
hat
the
on each
table.
finger.
yeah, it's a hat on each finger,
Yeah.
on this hand, some on this hand, one
Yeah.
on the toes. And
Yeah.
I still have a life outside of that. too.
Yeah,
So-
yeah,
Yeah,
which is,
of course.
it's crazy. We don't sleep in this city.
No.
Yeah, it's just too many things to
No
work
fun
on.
city, no sleep city.
No
Yeah.
sleep.
Yeah.
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 So I would say I've always taken it seriously and I've always wanted to do it, but it was actually just this year that I think it's dawned on me that maybe this could actually be even more of a thing than
Mhm.
it is already and has been for the last X number of years.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That's very
Yeah.
interesting. Yeah. So I think what I'd like to talk about a little bit first and foremost, obviously you're a DJ, you've been
Mhm.
DJing for how many years?
My first public paid gig was in 2003.
Oh, that's a long time
Wow.
ago.
So 20 years.
20 years.
Yeah.
20
And now I'm
years.
just saying this year, I feel like I can actually make this a career.
Yeah, so, yeah.
Imposter
Yeah.
syndrome, hello.
Yeah,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, interesting.
So anybody out there who deals with imposter syndrome, it's a very real thing.
Yeah.
Happens to probably all of us.
Yeah.
And it doesn't mean you shouldn't do what you're doing.
No.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
so true. So true.
It's
Reminder
honestly,
for
I think
all of us.
it's just a different way of seeing yourself, even in success. You know, I think as a person who struggles with ADHD, you know, imposter syndrome is a huge part of that as well.
Yeah.
And in my, you know, we talk about my photography career because that's what I parallel. That's what I've been doing much longer than anything involved in the music industry.
Yeah.
And yeah, it was years before I even looked at one of my photos, even after it was done. And I was like, do I even like this? Like, is it any good? And then I've got people constantly being like, this is amazing. I want to work with you, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, man, are you sure about that? And it's like,
always
you know,
that
it's always
self-doubt
been like,
that
and I've been
Yeah.
doing that professionally for, I'd say 15 plus years now. And only in the last few years have I really been like, oh, I look at my photos. I'm like, fuck, that's awesome.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
you know, like I feel like I've reached like nearly the top of what I want to do as far as like the quality of work, not maybe the success, but the quality of work is there. You know, so, you know, I get what you're saying when it's like, you've kind of been in it for the whole time. You've maybe worked at other things too. And it's just like, to even like think about like, do you deserve to be there with all the people that you admire in that same field?
Yeah.
You know, for somebody that struggles with that, it's kind of like a really long journey to get past it, I think. And I think for a lot of people in that situation, it would be the same.
Yeah.
It's been a very long journey.
Yeah.
I'm like a
like it.
really late bloomer.
Yeah.
That's okay.
Yeah.
We're
I
okay
would say
with
that for myself as well. Yeah. Definitely late bloomer.
Yeah.
Even though I
Yeah.
hang out with all you kids, I am older. I don't know if you've noticed.
Oh no. Mom. So I guess to dig into that a little bit, what were some of the factors? Because obviously you are DJ, you produce, you do a lot of different things. You have creation of events and everything like that too.
Yeah.
What were some of the key things that changed for you this year in order for you to feel like you could own that a little bit more?
For me this year was releasing on Unity Records, D Unity's label. I've been playing his records for well over a decade. And even as I've changed styles, his music has also changed styles a little bit. So I was playing some of his remixes in 2009, 2010, I think were the right years. I might be misquoted. And then to open for him a couple of times and then talk with him and like become friendly with him and then say, hey, can I send you music? And then to immediately have it accepted and put out on his label.
So cool.
Was like a big one for me because I never thought that would happen.
Yeah.
And then he was the one who accepted the masters that I did. So it was like, these are all just big stamps of like, you now can check that off your list. Now you can check that off your list. Now you can check that off your list. And I've worked hard to be in that position because like during COVID, I think I put out about 40 or 50 songs.
That is wild.
Like released.
Yeah, prodigious.
Forget about writing. There's a whole hard drive, several hard drives of material that's just, you don't see that stuff. I think with every artist, there's what you see publicly that gets released, and then there's a whole bunch of workshop work that no one ever sees.
Work in progress.
If you multiply that by the amount of work I was doing during COVID because there was nothing else to do, that prepared me. It just really accelerated my production level and my confidence, I think.
Yeah, I mean, that's a prodigious amount of...
That's a lot.
Even if you just counted what you put out, that's a prodigious amount of work. And then all the stuff you didn't put out, like, geez, you were on it like every day, I would sound like.
Caveat, most of that music is terrible.
Fair enough.
But as we were
when
just
you're
saying,
putting in the hours, right?
I mean,
that's like, oh yeah, I did that and I've completed something many, 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 many times, you know?
Now, I'm saying it's terrible. There may be people out there who really love some of those songs, so I don't mean to discount that. And some of it is good.
And some of them were charting on
absolutely.
Beatport and everything like that too. So
it can't be as maybe my judgment of it maybe doesn't really hold value out there in the world. It's the world that should judge it. I was talking with Gene Ferris and he said, your bosses are out there and they will let you know how you're doing.
That's right. Yeah.
So true.
So don't worry about how you don't get all wrapped up in here, even though we all do.
Yeah.
So I have worked hard to get to that point where I could do that and be at the right place and go, you know, arranged to open for him. Thanks Goa Pete for that, by the way.
Another legend.
Yeah. But to be in that place and then to be ready to fulfill once that opportunity comes your way, because these people are so busy, they're flying, they're touring, they're, all over the world. Time is fleeting, and if you catch them at the right minute, you got to be ready. So being ready to take advantage of that opportunity, I think I had to do all that work, some of it which wasn't great, in order to get to that place.
Totally.
To be ready.
Yeah.
Totally. And I made a very conscious decision during COVID that I would be willing to fail in public. Instead of not showing my work, I would start releasing it. If it was accepted and released somewhere, then it could go out. Even if I didn't think it was the best that I wanted it to be. I realized that I wanted to build a body of work that over time you could look back and see the roughness, but then see it evolve into whatever it's going to become. I still don't know what it's going to become. You could see that, but you could actually watch it and hear it. Instead of me hiding everything until it was perfect. Yeah.
Yes.
And the thing is if you put it out there too, then you'll get feedback, especially because, you're in the industry and friends with a lot of people in the industry. You've got access to that feedback. It's not like you're like doing something, but you're not in it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's so, when I was in photography, like I didn't hang out with a lot of photographers at the time. Right. It was until I got started many years after that I started to hang out with photographers and get that feedback. And honestly, the leaps in quality from there were immense, because you're measuring yourself against your peers.
Yeah.
You're looking for their respect. So it pushes you to work harder and be better. And it's like until that point, I was just getting feedback from my friends and they're like, oh, everything you do is awesome. Hot girl.
Thanks.
Yeah. You took a photo of it. Cool.
Yeah.
Like it didn't take, it's not like, you're getting
pure criticism or praise.
Exactly. Yeah. So when you get it from the people that you look up to or respect, then it's like, but you can only do that when you put it out.
You need our aperture measurements and ISO and technical feedback as opposed to.
Yeah. Oh, that's good. That's not good. Yeah. Exactly.
I've always been a big advocate of just throw everything at the wall and see what sticks.
Yeah, she's the best at that. Oh my goodness. Yeah.
I just give it a shot.
And holy crap, has that worked really well?
It
has. I think so.
It
really has.
No, but that's the craziest part too. Even
you and I have the complete different
I am such
process,
a big fan.
and it's like I am so jealous of what you do. It's
just start before you're ready, because you'll never feel ready. And I think that goes back into the imposter syndrome.
Yeah.
We'll never feel like we're okay. Now it's going to be 100%. Where is that? Because a lot of people spend their whole life searching for it. I think that hard work always trumps talent. In my opinion, across the majority of industries, especially one of ours, because you can have the most talented people. We've seen them, the most talented people ever, but if they're not putting things out because they don't feel ready, the world's never going to find them.
I agree.
Yeah.
You were talking about maybe practicing photography, but not connecting with your peers. I've been in Vancouver for 11 years, and it was 2013, 2014. I had left a town, I was in Nelson for a few years before, and I had a great sense of community there. I was playing shows, a couple of shows a month. I was booking people to come into town. I had a radio show. I didn't pay cover anywhere. I knew everybody in town.
Established.
It was like really warm and wholesome and great. And then I got here and I didn't have that. I left that nest and didn't have anything to replace it here yet. And so I saw what some people were doing in Calgary with the meetup. And it was like you said, once they started connecting, I saw that they were leveling up really fast. And I was like, well, maybe we could replicate that here. So I called them and I said, I'd like to replicate that here. But I don't want to step on your toes. So they helped me out to get started. And in 2015, I launched Groundwerk, and it was not only a producers meetup, but really for anybody in the industry to connect, and did an interview like this at the beginning and then played everyone's new music for the next couple hours after that. And I thought it would fizzle out after 3 or 4 monthly events. We did 60.
Wow.
That's incredible.
So right up to COVID. And then online during COVID. After COVID, I decided to evolve it into a record label because of what I'd learned.
Totally.
A&Ring all that music really in the room. and teaching music business at SAE.
I mean, you put yourself as a position of authority on the matter, so yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. I've niched it down and really focused it into techno because it's what I do and what I DJ and what I love. So it's what I want to foster. Whereas the meetups were pretty broad and open genre.
Yeah.
But it was like you said, like as soon as you start connecting with your peers and, you can show up the next month and know you're going to show one of your songs off, then it starts to matter.
Yeah.
And it's not just you like with your headphones at your desk, like doing it for yourself. All of a sudden, like 6 of your friends that you've met are going to be there.
Yeah.
And your snare's got to sound good.
Yeah.
So like, you're going to work on that month.
There's a little bit of added pressure, and that's,
in a good way. Yeah.
I think that's really
because it's not like you're going to go there and then like if you fail, you're never working in the industry again. It's like you're just going to get some criticism and then you grow from it. It's just it's a safe place to be able to put that stuff out.
Absolutely. And it was for so many people, it was the first time hearing their music on a club system.
Yeah.
So they were like,
that's big. Yeah.
Wow,
so
that's
cool.
what that's supposed to sound like,
right?
Not sound like. And then they would correct it for the next time. So it was like the learning curve was really fast because people didn't have access to that otherwise. And we didn't deliberately chose not to do feedback from us, the organizers. We let it be peer-to-peer in the room,
right?
So that people would self-regulate and form friendships and start to talk. And that's exactly what happened.
Nice.
So organic.
You've had Bryn on the show,
Bryn
Lidl from Northern House Studios. He met Dom at Groundwerk.
Wow.
No way.
Dom met
so
Victoria
cool.
at Groundwerk.
Really?
Oh my goodness.
Oh wow.
And for anybody that doesn't know, Victoria is Wave Reports in Vancouver here, and Dom is still London.
Yeah.
And they're both prominent DJs, so talented.
Yeah.
And they met at Groundwerk. That's so cool.
And they've been together since COVID, I think.
Yeah. And Dom and Bryn work really closely together.
Yeah,
they do.
They're Northern House's duo.
I don't take responsibility for that. I just created a container and then people will do what they will. But without the container, we don't have a place for that to happen. So when I see that happening, it just that's the payoff to me
for sure
for that type of event, which is different than trying to promote a show and bring in a headliner and kind of make it maybe a bit of a financial. There's some different things that play there. This to me, the reward was very human. So when I see those things continuing in those friendships, and they're one example, but there are many
for sure. I'd imagine with 60 of them over 5 years, I guess.
A lot of collaborations.
8 years,
that must have happened.
We did a couple at Base Coast. We did some stage organizing for second stages for Monster Cat Compound. I ended up doing some interviews at AIMCon, which is the Alberta Electronic Music Conference, when that was happening, for the few years that was happening. So it led to a lot of...
That's crazy. I didn't even know that was a thing that was happening in Alberta. Why don't we have that here?
Well, funny you should say.
Oh, let's get into it.
No, it was actually one of the ideas I had when I started Groundwerk. Is like, let's start the meetups. Then let's throw events. Then let's do a conference style meetup. But then the same friends that had the meetups in Calgary that I was looking at started the conference. And I was like, well, if you have it, what we should be doing is piling on and supporting you as a Western Canadian thing.
Collaboration.
Rather than trying to compete.
Yeah.
So that was what the idea was. But then I think they lasted 3 or 4 years. It was a wonderful event. It had it had speakers and guests and DJs from all over the world. It was fantastic. Something like that could rise again. They just, for whatever reasons, especially during COVID.
I mean, a conference or convention is a huge undertaking to organize.
Massive.
Like, especially if you're bringing people from overseas or other, oh my goodness, like that's throwing an event times 100. Like it's crazy. So I can imagine that
one headliner, you're bringing like
hours and hours. So it's I could only imagine how much you need an entire staff, and then it would have to be a for-profit thing, which makes it even more stressful, et cetera, et cetera. Because there's no way you can do a convention without staff.
I found
at least not one of any size.
I was tapped out organizing the monthly meetup for those 8 years.
Mm-hmm.
That was enough to do one monthly meetup on top of everything else I'm doing here in the city.
Mm-hmm.
Like that was enough. I couldn't even imagine trying to organize something like a conference.
Yeah.
It would take a lot of people.
Yeah. My last corporate job, they did one every year, and it felt like they were working on it for the whole year, every year.
You could potentially, for sure. Yeah, there's always something to do.
Yeah, promoting it and selling it and administrating it.
Funding, forget about
advertising it. It's just crazy.
Yeah. But someone can take that on and grab a bunch of people and go for it.
Job opening.
I think we need to just spitballing here, but I think because the we've talked about on the pod how the underground and electronic music scene has never been in a better place in this city, in my experience. It's just like growing, it's thriving, like there's so much talent here, and but we're not at the place where, where all of us, or like a big group of us, or some pocket of us, are like starting to be internationally recognized all at the same time. Right. You know what I mean? We're not like Toronto with hip hop, or,
Chicago,
like Chicago with house back in the day, or even like, like another hip hop example is like New York and South Central Los Angeles back in the 90s or whatever, whereas like all that group of people together came up at the same time. They're all household names. Like, if you're talking about Wu-Tang and Nas, they were just performed here yesterday.
Sierra.
And then like, Snoop Dogg and Dr. Dre and NWA and all those guys, they all grew up together, and they all started to come up at the same time and became internet. Like if we get to that point, then a convention makes so much sense, because then we're an internationally recognized, player in the scene, right? I think I'm just spitballing, but I think that would be when it would really be a good idea to do that.
I can talk. I can address that a little bit.
Yeah, please do.
I think the talent is here. I think you're right. I think there's an energy right now, and so many talents working in the scene right now that deserve to be,
for sure,
not only playing here, which is wonderful, but playing wherever they can play.
Absolutely,
or becoming international. Sure, absolutely. It's part of why we'll get into that later.
It's a good segue into that
segue. We'll pin in that for later, but yes.
The obstacles, I've heard that we're on the wrong coast of the wrong continent. I've heard, I have, for myself, I've been like in touch with several people in Europe who are like, yeah, we'll book you totally, we're ready, anytime you're here, let us know. But no one wants to pay no one wants to be the first one to pay the international flight until you're famous.
Right. Yeah.
So it's really hard to build from here. There's a middle step that's missing.
That's right. Yeah. There's a middle step.
You have to rocket past that.
Yeah.
And find a way to rocket past that. Usually that's with music. Maybe now it can be with TikTok or Twitch.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Good point.
But I think these avenues are really powerful and can get people connected, through time zones and borders. I think music needs to be the thing, because whether you could use this platform to get it out there, but it really needs to come back to the music, because that's what the whole thing is about in the first place.
Yeah.
It's my opinion on it. Take it or leave it. But so there's a middle step. I see, like, it's really hard to get residencies in different cities in Canada because flights are so expensive. No one wants to pay
that. Makes so much sense.
So you can't tour Canada, really.
There's only it's like if they want to pay you, let's just say a number, $500 to $1,000 for a gig, but then it costs another $500 to $1,000 to get you there. It's double the cost.
All of a sudden that club night makes less money than they wanted it to.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Our next door neighbors are becoming increasingly more expensive to break into. And again, it's that middle step that's missing.
And we're talking about Calgary here?
I'm talking about
Seattle.
the US.
Washington.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Like if you want to go tour the US, it's gone up from just a couple $1,000s up to, like, they just doubled the fees, I believe, or went quite a bit higher to get the visa.
Right. Okay.
So it's quite it's actually quite a bit of money now.
Right.
And you have to line up so many dates within a certain amount of time. And when I was looking at it, it looked like it was almost outside of the booking cycle. Like you needed to line up the dates way far in advance, but the booking cycle was actually not that far out.
Right.
Interesting.
So it was like everything was working against you.
Yeah.
You have to hit lightning in a bottle kind of thing.
Very much.
And you have to have a bunch of dates, and they need
sell.
They need to
Mhm.
sell.
Perform,
And
yeah.
so how do you do that as an emerging artist, or how do you do that if you're trying to do one-offs?
Mhm.
Totally.
Someone wants to bring you down to Seattle, which would be the next obvious market,
Yeah.
Mhm.
or do a West Coast thing.
Yeah.
Mhm.
How do you do that legally? And if
Yeah.
you don't do it legally, then you're risking 5-10 years getting booted out of the country or
Yeah.
for life.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So, and you've lost that market.
That's a huge
Mhm.
market to lose. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
So these are the challenges that we face. They're not insurmountable.
Mhm.
Mhm.
I just see it makes it more difficult
Mhm.
to become a touring artist.
That's right. Yeah.
Maybe perhaps from this location.
Yeah.
Than from other locations.
Yeah.
Mhm.
That makes a lot of
Yeah.
sense. Just the logistics itself. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Because
Mhm.
then, unless you've got the money to be out of pocket on all the travel expenses and all that stuff, then
Yeah.
I mean, and most people wouldn't be.
No.
You know, you'd have to be like
absolutely.
a rich kid that wants to try and do it, kind of thing,
Yeah.
and go from there. I'm just hypothesizing, but
Mhm.
Classically, a lot of these places where artists, like pockets of artists,
Yeah.
spring from.
yeah.
Mhm.
I think of Greenwich Village in the 60s,
Mhm.
places like Ashbury and Haight, places in San
Mhm.
Francisco in the hippie movement.
Yeah.
Mhm.
They're cheap places to live.
Yeah, that's a
Mm.
good point.
Berlin, maybe 15 years ago,
Yeah.
cheap places to live. You could squat there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a good
Yeah.
point.
Artists need to woodshed for
Mhm.
several years before
Totally.
they can succeed.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And in that time, they need to keep their overheads as low as possible.
Mhm.
Vancouver has some of the highest rents in North
Yeah.
America.
Yes.
It is now
E-
$3,000 plus for a 1-bedroom apartment.
Yeah, and the average listing is
Wild.
3,000
Yeah.
plus for a 1-bedroom.
Yeah.
So
Insane.
you need to
And
be
the
able
average
to
incomes
fulfill
have
that
not
overhead
changed. Yeah.
Mhm.
and have time and energy left over to then create art,
Mhm.
have the freedom and space to create art.
Yeah.
So there's just a lot of factors working against someone succeeding from here.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I've done a whole bunch of speaking negatively.
Mhm.
I actually don't feel negative about all of this. I think
Yeah.
it's totally possible. And I think there's so many people here that are deserving of it.
Mhm.
And I think there's a lot of people here working at it.
Yeah.
And I wish them all to succeed.
Mhm.
But if you want to talk about maybe why it hasn't happened yet,
Yeah.
or it seems to be happening a little slower,
Yeah.
Mhm.
there's a lot of
External
downward
forces,
pressure.
Yeah. Downward
Yeah.
pressure. Yeah.
Definitely.
in this location.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Having said that, I agree completely that the scene is an incredible place.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Locally,
So,
anyway. Yeah.
so much talent.
So
here.
much
So
talent.
much.
So much talent.
Yeah. It's
Um,
crazy.
I
feel
honestly,
so
I mean,
lucky.
you guys probably feel
Yeah.
the same way, but I'm not going to speak for you. But I feel like anytime there's like a headliner in town that I've never seen before or never heard of, I'll look at who's opening. I'll be like, I'll go to that show because I know who's opening and how good that's going to be.
Right.
Almost all the time,
Mhm.
you know. And then there'll be shows like the last big one I went to was Chris Avant-Garde at Celebrities,
Mhm.
Mhm.
and I love his production. I've never heard him live, and he was there, and I was like, just a kind of an ordinary DJ with great production.
Right.
And then Zeta came on after, and I was like, this is one of the best sets I've ever heard in my life. And
Yeah,
she's
exactly.
not Chris Avant-Garde famous,
No.
Right.
you know?
Yeah.
And it's just like, we need to flip that,
Yeah.
you know, like she's so much better
Mhm.
controlling the crowd, doing the mixing, track selection, everything was just blew him out of the water.
I would
Right.
definitely
Blew him out
argue
of the
that
water.
because there's such a talent in the city, you
Yeah.
have to rise to that talent too.
Yeah.
You have to rise to that level to even be noticed, to be considered too.
Mhm.
So there's a lot
Yeah.
more. I know a lot of people kind of poo-poo on the fact that it's so much easier to get into DJing,
Right.
but try doing it here. The amount of talent that you have to compete with in order to even like rise to that level,
Yeah.
I feel like is at a very, very high bar.
Especially for the kind of
Yeah.
music that at least the three of us really love. Like,
Yeah.
oh my God,
Oh, it's,
the amount of like crazy good talent in the city for that.
Yeah.
It's like, whoa.
Mhm.
Yeah, it's nuts.
I feel
And even though it's like not the most, I guess you could say it's not the most popular genres,
Mhm.
it is definitely growing. Like 2 years ago, you'd never,
Before COVID, you're saying.
even during COVID or
Okay,
2 years ago, and,
Mhm.
or even before COVID, or even just after COVID, you know, trying to get a progressive or techno DJ at a club would be impossible. Like,
No,
nobody wants
a
to.
lot of
It's
top
tech house,
40s.
tech house. You know,
Right.
tech
Mhm.
house or you know, anything
Lots of
along those
house.
lines.
Mhm.
Now it's like I hear progressive every weekend almost. It's fucking amazing.
Mhm.
Yeah, it's awesome. Yeah. So
Yeah.
you know, things are definitely changing. You know, COVID had a big part to play in that. Not COVID didn't do it. The way people reacted to COVID had
Yeah.
a big part to play
Mhm.
in that.
They did,
And
for sure. Bringing it more into
yeah,
the
screw
spotlight.
that nonsense. But like the fact that everybody decided to take, not everybody, but like a big group of people decided to take it upon themselves to make something out of a bad situation.
Yeah.
And springboarded past it once, all that stuff opened up again. It's just really, it's very much a surprise because I mean, I've been here my whole life and I've never said anything like that here. It's always been a struggle to find good music to listen to here.
I always found it was centered around certain venues for me. We lost Open Studios, which was an institution here during COVID.
And before.
And that, to me, that's where I would go to catch good shows most of the time. It's like, what's happening at Open Studios this weekend? That was a big one. So it was a huge loss. Now we're seeing new venues. I'm so thankful we're seeing new venues spring up because
that aren't getting shut down like you'd think they would be.
Right. Yeah. Like the Vault is one.
Yeah. Huge.
It's so cool in there. Yeah.
Thankfully I got to do one gig in there before leaving, and it turned out really, really well. So it was nice to participate in that way and not just go as a fan or as a patron, but get to play there.
Yeah, definitely.
So much fun.
I think there's going to be huge things with that place.
I'm excited.
And Vantech. Vantech.
That's been a home for me. So what's changed for me in the past 10 years, but especially in the last 5, is really going from house to techno for me, and just really centering on techno. My BPMs have basically done that. Like I was playing it when I got here in Vancouver, and for a number of years I was playing it like 124, 126. Now I'm playing
approachable BPMs, if
now
you will.
I'm playing it 140. And 135 feels slow.
Right.
Interesting.
And I took a trip to Europe in 2018. I got to play at ADE.
Which is going on right now, I think.
It's going on right now.
Amsterdam dance event.
If
anybody doesn't know,
almost 500,000 people descend on that city for a week.
400,000 people.
I
just looked up the stats.
Yeah, crazy.
Me, stats girl.
It's so much fun. If you get a chance, go.
I want to.
So getting exposed to what's going on in Europe and where techno was at there, and how it's something that starts like here. It almost feels like people grow into it, whereas there it seemed like it was happening right from it's just what people do.
It's always kind of been there.
It's a staple.
Especially in the what's it called, that middle part of the continent, the German, Nordic, Amsterdam.
Amsterdam. I was in Hungary for a while. It was huge there. I'm watching on Instagram right now. I'm about to go there, and there's about in the city, and it's just what I know about from watching from here. There's about 6 or 7 techno clubs, just techno,
techno.
That's the only thing that they do.
Crazy.
2 in the neighborhood I'm moving into.
Wow,
really
so cool.
Nice.
So here, there's one venue that really supports it. It's Vantech, where I can actually play what I want to play. I love all the venues that I get to play at, but I don't get to really
go hard.
I don't get to go as hard as when I play there, and so that's been really appreciated for me, and it's allowed me to grow into that sound. And I want to do that more and more, and I want to compromise less and less. So I'm finding I want to go to a place maybe where it's not as much of an uphill battle.
It's more encouraged. It's more normalized.
Because you can't just because we just have Vantech for techno. I mean, maybe that'll change, but we just have Vantech for that, so you can't play there twice a week. No, like it's just you just can't do that. So
I don't know. Correct me if I'm wrong. I don't know if there's an audience to support that much techno here in the city as well.
It's growing.
It's growing.
They
do pretty well. I mean, I think they have a pretty much sold out event almost every weekend.
But to open up another whole club where you can go for just
techno. Exactly. And again, as if you're just playing techno, which I'm not saying you are, but if you are just playing techno and you just want to go that hard, you couldn't play there every day. No. It's just they wouldn't want you. B, people get bored of it. Like to be oversaturated. I'll miss it tonight because he'll be there next week. You know what I mean? And then nobody shows up, right?
Exactly.
So it's a small, dedicated, concentrated, but smaller audience here.
But definitely growing for sure.
Definitely growing. I'm finding that the more people that are arriving from outside of the city that didn't grow up here, the more of those people are looking for that.
Yeah.
Because that's what the rest of the world is doing.
Yeah.
Yes.
So I'm
we're a little bit late to the game there.
So I was like, well, I can push for that here. But I also have an opportunity to try and go and do that elsewhere.
Yeah.
And I thought, I haven't done that yet in my life. And
hey, now's the time.
Let's
talk about that. We've thoroughly segued into that particular topic. So tell us about.
I didn't have to do any driving.
Your inspiration.
I'm here
that made you think. We've already touched on it, I'm sure, like a little bit, but like what inspiration that made you think that this is the direction you want to go in, knowing that when you moved from Nelson to Vancouver, there was that uphill battle to create a community again.
Sure.
Knowing that, trying it again, not even in the same province, not even the same country, not in the same continent.
Yeah.
Like that's like
that goes far to say language barrier as well.
Even language barrier,
yes.
So
I've heard Hungarian is not the easiest language, and I'm looking forward to trying my best to mangle it, because I know I'm gonna stumble a lot. But yes, there will be a language barrier. When I visited in 2018, I found in the metropolitan area, in the downtown and in the city, it was pretty easy to get by with English. But I'd like to be respectful and try and integrate myself as much as I can if I want to stay there for a while.
Yeah.
So I'm going to try and do that to the best of my ability. Where were we?
Just what inspired you to make that decision? Like, when did you first start thinking about it, and then when did you were like, you know what, this is happening, let's start doing it?
So as COVID wound down and I started to get more involved playing at Vantech and be more accepted there, and it was run by two people from Spain, and so they get it immediately, and they're trying to influence and bring that here. And I was like, it just reinforced that idea that this music is accepted over there in a way that we're learning here at this point.
In North America in general too. Yeah, it's definitely picking up in America, but it's not quite like where Europe is. Yeah. And we're on the tail end of that too, I think.
Yeah. We're definitely, I would say, like I was just there, we're probably 4 or 5 years behind. Yeah. That's what I feel like.
Yeah, but anyway, go ahead.
I think who's doing a good job of it in North America right now is 6 a.m. in LA. Gia and crew, shout out. And thanks for letting me do a guest mix. Caught 2 of their parties in Detroit at Movement, and they were bringing over a bunch of talent from Europe as well as American talent and commingling that. And then I went down to one of their parties with DBS1 in a big warehouse in July in LA, and they're doing it proper down there. Yeah, and their crowd gets it, and they have enough people down there to pull from,
for sure.
Whereas we might do 200 people at Vantech. Yeah, they're doing 15 or 1800 people in a warehouse.
Huge,
huge.
Cool.
So
for reference, that's double the Commodore. Just for reference,
guys, if you're in Vancouver,
that's double the Commodore, which is one of our bigger venues.
So it's encouraging to see that, but that's really one pulse and one epicenter that's succeeding, because they have the amount of people to pull from, the population to pull from.
And a lot of people are from other places in that area too. Yeah,
totally.
Very international.
Whereas in Europe, getting around is a lot less expensive. Flights are less expensive. Trains are a possibility. Driving, if you're just going to the next country over, and you can base yourself anywhere in Europe and be anywhere in Europe very quickly, very easily,
because of the EU stuff.
1.5 hour, 2 hour flight, and
so simple.
And you're there, and it's much more affordable for people to bring you in.
Yeah.
So I was like, I will not. People who know me know how old I am, but I won't say how old I am.
Spring chicken.
I'm on the downhill slope of my life. Let's put it that way. I am
physically, not emotionally, intellectually,
no, certainly not intelligently.
Yeah.
Wisdom is slowly catching up, I hope. But it started to really make me think about what I would regret doing and not doing when it's all done. Like when I'm 80, will I regret making this decision or not making this decision?
Or staying home. Yeah.
And I went, okay, I have an opportunity right now to go and maybe make some inroads there and live there for a while.
Mm-hmm.
It's a place that maybe I won't be pushing the boulder up the hill in quite the same way with the music that I really love. It'll probably be pretty warm and receptive to what I'm doing.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And if it takes off, it's very easy to play in many different cities in many different countries and not wear out your audience and create a bit of a tour schedule and be able to sustain yourself that way as a DJ and a producer, which just isn't possible here.
Yeah.
No.
You can't do it in one location. Some people can do it in one location. It's very difficult.
Very.
So
the
opportunity arose, and I was like, yeah, it's time.
Yeah, and that arose basically in part because of the productions you were putting out were picking up traction from those labels, and there's like, you're like, you know what, this coupled with the fact that, you know, the scene will be accepting of what I'm doing and what I like, then it's just like kind of put those together, made more sense.
So many people ask me, what's my plan? What do you have lined up? And I don't have either a solid plan or a ton of things lined up right now. But with my experience running Groundwerk for 8 years and realizing that it's really about these face-to-face connections.
Yeah, if you build it, they will come too.
and connecting with people.
Yeah.
I have great faith that if I just go over there, get in the scene, get to know people, all my pieces are ready. It's going to be a matter of finding those people that want to work with you and move forward together. And when that happens, it's going to be great. Yeah. So that's the spirit I'm going over there with.
Yeah.
So I don't have anything like
lined up for sure.
But I know this is the move.
It feels right.
Yeah. Awesome.
So I guess that's really interesting that you say that too, is what are some of the elements that you feel kind of make, because you've started over a couple of times and created that environment, what are some of those tangible elements that you think make up a community, and how you've created, 0 to 100 with Groundwerks?
If you were looking at community building, you would need to have a reason to meet, something you're all obsessed with. In our case, it's music. You would need to have a place to meet. And you need to do it regularly, not too often, and not often enough. Monthly seemed to be perfect. In our case, if we'd done it every 2 weeks, people wouldn't have had enough time to work on new music. If we'd have left it every 2 months or done it quarterly, it would have been too far in between and people would forget. A month was perfect.
Yeah, totally. Just enough scarcity kind of thing.
So that was a big part of it. The idea for me, because people were like, well, how are you going to judge the music and all that stuff? And I was like, well, no, we're not doing that. It grew out of the community of record shops, because when I started DJing, I was still buying vinyl. And all the DJs would meet up at the record shops when the new records came in. They knew what time, what day the shipments would come. So everybody would be there because you had to get the record, because then we'd only get 2 copies of the record you really wanted. It wasn't like digital where everything was everywhere and never runs out. It's like your record store might only get a copy or 2 copies of the record you really need. So you had to be there to get it. So you would end up talking with people, and you would end up talking about what happened last weekend, and you'd overhear stories of other people talking, and you'd pass each other records. I'm like, I listened to this one and I don't really like it, but you play that progressive, so maybe you'd really like it. It was community, and it was built around these record shops. And then it kind of went away when things went digital. And so I was looking for something to replace that. So that's where, to me, it became really important not to be a top-down, hierarchical, we're going to judge your music, you're going to bring it here, and I'm going to rate it out of 5 kind of thing. It was really needed to be an organic peer-to-peer,
which totally makes more sense for sure. Especially since, you're coming to a place where you're new. So why would you assume you're the authority on anything?
Totally. I'm just like, hey, I like music. You guys like music? Let's
hang out.
Every month and listen to music. It'll be fun.
You just provide the place and the structure and the format, and then everybody else just comes and builds it.
And if they enjoy it, it tended to self-select. Like, we didn't get a lot of jerks. Like, everyone was really cool. So if people enjoyed it, they would come back, and we had, regulars, and we had people dropping in and coming back, and we had people like dipping in once or twice and coming back a few months later, and as they could. And if they enjoyed it. And
yeah. Well, I mean, over
know.
60 sessions, like you say, you didn't have the experience then, but you certainly have it now.
Yeah.
And then making your own kind of label, what were some of the kind of decisions that went into doing that, first of all? And then how do you even create a label?
Great questions. The initial idea behind creating a Groundwerk label was simply that we realized there was so much, again, we've been talking about this. For us, there was so much talent here.
Absolutely.
A lot of which was not getting heard. And the idea was to support that community and maybe keep it more open genre. And did a few releases, and the energy just wasn't there for it. Running a label, unless you're incredibly successful, it's kind of like the music business in general. Look at pop music. The people at the very top are making a lot of money.
They make all the money.
And everybody trying to get there is making no money to like maybe a little bit of money. And then it's like a sharp rise to the top where it's like, that's where you're actually making money. It's the same with a label. It is a labor of love completely. It maybe breaks even if you're able to be light tight with how you run it. Until it's something.
Until it gets,
So when I realized that, I was like, okay, I'm doing this. I'm putting my own energy into this. I'm doing this for a lot of other people, for a lot of other genres. And I needed to tighten it up and focus it in order to stay energized about it. And I needed to bring it and niche it down to techno, really raw, deep, hypnotic, to like bang and peak time, to like industrial type techno. Stuff that I would DJ and play, because so it keeps me passionate at the moment. So that's what I was able to pour back into the label.
And what is it about techno that really draws you in? Like,
why
is
the sheer
it techno?
energy of it?
Okay,
It's the energy. Like, if you had to break it down to one word, it's the energy.
It's to me, it's aggressive but technical at the same time.
You
know what I mean? It has the aggression of, maybe dubstep or drum and bass or like heavy bass music, but it's not any of that. But it's got that energy which is very infectious. It's very like like that face. You get this face when you hear it. Like,
you feed off of it.
You don't get this face when you listen to house music. You know what I mean?
Right.
You don't get the face when you listen. You know what I mean? It's a different energy, right?
It's the energy of it. I love the sound palette. I just like the raw, more hypnotic. I like the more mechanical, industrial repetitiveness. I really like loopy tracks that like repeat every half bar, every bar, and then it's just filtering in and out, and just different stuff happening with percussion over the loop. It allows me to lose myself, and it allows me to be I'll make a snowboarding analogy.
Please.
That's okay. We've done sports allergies unsuccessfully here before, so we can do that.
I grew up in the mountains around Nelson. I was a snowboarder since I was about 12 or 13, and I was a snowboard instructor for a while. And my favorite moments of Zen were always riding to the limit of my ability as fast as I could to the edge of control while maintaining control, because it needed you to be laser focused, and you could just, my brain would turn off.
You couldn't be thinking about it.
So
you have to be like it's just happening.
You have to be present.
Is like present, full presence.
And so I find with techno, it drives me to a similar place when I'm DJing it, when I'm making it, when I'm dancing, when I see people dancing, when I'm working with that energy and we're working together with the room. Because I always say that it's, people show up and pay money to see the DJ, but like, if nobody shows up, there's no show. So like the people there are making more of the show than the DJ is. Most of the energy in the room is coming from there. We happen to be loud. That's about it.
We've just got the aux cord.
But we work together to create that event, right? So I'm always so thankful when people do show up. But you're riding that energy to the edge of your mind lets go. And I need those BPMs and I need those sounds now in order to get to that place. House music is what I grew up or, you know, started DJing. When I started DJing, I DJed that for years, and I have a really soft spot for it, but it doesn't take me to that place anymore. So for now, this is what I'm going to do. Maybe that'll change again. Yeah.
So making a whole label of techno, that's just a dream come true then.
Well, what's been really cool is doing things like releasing. I was just having dinner before coming here with a really great friend of mine who produces under the name The Goat. He just released on Flash. He just released on Unknown Territories. He's an incredible producer and a hell of a DJ. And we've DJed back to back. Like we've done 6+ hour back to back sets, 1 for 1 at Gorgamish.
Wow!
Before
That's
COVID.
incredible.
Yeah.
A great friend of mine. So to see, and he's actually one of my favorite producers out of anybody, like anybody that I buy music from or get music from or play. He's still one of my favorite producers. So to be able to put his music out there,
so
and
cool.
that's really out in the world, and get reactions. Another same kind of deal with my friend Son of Magnus, who's in the Valley here outside of Vancouver. Incredibly talented producer, way better producer than I am. So to send his music off, and it's getting played by Richie Houghton. Like
so
he's
cool.
getting feedback from all kinds of people from the promo mailouts that we do. People I never thought the music would even connect with or be able to get to. They're sending support, feedback, and
very cool. Yeah,
be able to connect the dots that way, and again, give a platform for people that I really believe in. There's no feeling like that, and again, it's not about money because none of us are getting rich off these releases. If you want to build your career, you need to. If you want to do it this way, you need to put the music out there to build your bio, to build your profile, to get better gigs, to get on better booking companies, to then up your gig rate and make your money that way. I think is the way to do it at the moment. Unless you have an incredible Twitch stream, that could do it too.
You never know.
So to be able to help people build that is the reward for me right now. And again, it gives me all the fuzzies right here.
I mean, that's why you should really. I mean, the thing is that's why you should. That's really why you should do anything, and the money will come. You know, because
especially in art, you know, if you put your passion and your time and your energy into it, and you love it so much, the love will attract other love. You know, energy attracts other energy. And hopefully at the end of the day, it all pans out and it pays for itself.
And success, like people, a lot of people confuse success with reaching the absolute top. And, you know, that's not necessarily what success is. Success is, are you able to sustain what you do on its own? That I think that's what success is. You know, like if you grew up saying like, I want to be a professional singer when I grow up, I want to be a singer when I grow up, you know, and you just play at like small venues where you sing 2-3 times a week and you make all your bills, put away money to save, you know, if that's what your level is, I think that's definitely success. You know what I mean? Like that to me, that sounds like you're doing what you said you wanted to do. You know, and the way people become that crazy 1%, like there's such a serious amount of circumstances that have to happen. It's crazier than winning the lottery. You know what I mean? So you can't be like, if I didn't get to Taylor Swift, well, I'm not successful.
I'm a failure.
You know what I mean? Like there's only one or two of those at a time, you know, like you can't just be, that's your measurement, you know, and I had to grow up to realize that for myself.
That's the way I look at it as well. And I realize that like, I feel pressure to go over there and then all of a sudden be visible back here. They're like, oh, wow, look at all the big gigs he's playing and look at where he's playing, But if I just rewind a little bit and zoom out and be like, no, what I need is 3 gigs a month at a certain rate, which actually not as high as you'd think, to be able to do exactly that, like live by doing that. And here, I haven't found that possible. I can do that with acting. So I've done that. I know what it feels like. Now I want to translate it to this career. But I think I need to be there to do that. Because of the proximity to capital cities and secondary markets.
And the fact that your rent won't be $3,000 plus a month.
No, it's $580.
I I was down in Seville earlier.
My rent was $580. I would literally have a Ferrari right now.
I would walk off the patio.
Yeah.
So I was in Seville earlier this year. Don't worry about me. I was in Seville earlier this year, and I met the resident DJs of Seville, and they were professional, working, and I was like, well, do you guys have a second job? They're like, no. What? Like, have a second job? Like, miss, that is our job. And that just blew my little mind, you know, because of course here you have to have your second or your third or anything like that.
Yeah. Well,
but
I'd
over
say
there,
somebody
it's just completely different. They treat their DJs and their artists and their resident DJs as a profession, as something that that is their career. You know, they treat them the same as the bar staff as a bouncer. You know,
I mean, if you're playing twice a week here as a regular DJ.
First of all, that's a lot of work.
I'm this is a purely hypothetical because nobody's doing this. But if you're working, unless you like literally you're resident at the club, like, you know, whatever. But anyway, I think the average is $250 a gig.
Yeah.
You know, so let's just say you're doing that twice a weekend. So that's $500 and you're doing that every weekend.
2 grand a month.
Yeah. So
and a 1-bedroom.
So that's $2,000, right? Before taxes.
We might get
if
a
you
closet.
Actually
we
are
might be able
reporting
to
your
all
income.
share a closet in Vancouver.
Yeah, if you're actually reporting your income, you're not getting all that $2,000.
Oh, true.
Right. Yeah, so you can not even afford parking for the month.
So the paralegal's gonna cover her ears now. La la la.
So I've enjoyed being a working paid DJ in Vancouver, and I've been really lucky and very fortunate with a lot of the gigs that I've had, and being a resident at Gorgamish for a number of years, and now playing often at Bantech, playing places like the Vault, playing places like Open Studios, booking my own shows and bringing headliners in. That's great. But in order to only do this, I realized that I probably would need to go, or it would be easier if I did. Yeah. So that's the reality of it for sure. Yeah. That's the reality of it.
Definitely.
Yeah.
And the thing is you can do the record label anywhere. Yeah. It's all digital. So, you know.
Speaking of the record label, I have to toot the horn a little bit.
Do it, please.
Please.
It's not even like I don't feel like I'm tooting my own horn because most of the music isn't from me. It's just it just happens to be on the label. Yeah. We've been almost every release has gotten in the top 10 of the Raw Deep Hypnotic Techno charts. The Goats album was #1 for 2 weeks. Wow. Last summer.
Very
amazing.
Nice.
My last Sombrero EP got to top 3. I think it was on 3 for a little while. Yeah. We've gotten support from like Christian Valera and Slam and Takaki Ito. These are big techno names if you don't know them.
So cool.
I've had some of my stuff playlisted by Ken Ishii, who just played here from Japan. Richie Houghton has been a big supporter of Son of Magnus, especially. He also played one of my tracks that's unreleased. And a really big one that just came in from my Sombrero EP, but it was the Vinicius Honorio remix. So it was a friend of mine from the UK whose work that I've been playing for years. And I approached him, was like, would you do a remix? Yeah. And he said, yep. Nice. Did the deal and he did it. And,
amazing.
And I was like, yay!
And that is such a win after working so hard for so many years.
I mean, I've been playing your music for years, and now we chat on Instagram, and I'm like,
that's very cool. Yeah.
Pinch yourself moment.
I've been looking up to these people for a long time,
and you're becoming a peer.
And that's definitely where you could be like you said, you feel like you're at a place where you know you can go to a different country and be like, you know what, I can do this. You know, you're playing. You may not be, you know, an all pro in the NFL, but you're definitely on the roster. Right. You know what I mean? Like you're on the roster. Like maybe not a starter, but definitely, you know, the next level or whatever. You know what I mean? Like and you can work your way up from there. Like you're in the league now.
That's what I feel like is I'm like I've got my feet in the pool now. Yeah. You're swimming over there and I'm like at the edge of it.
You're in the league now. Yeah. That's cool. That's very cool.
Yeah.
But that remix got support from Ben Clock. And like that was huge. Huge. Wow. For the label, for him, and for me. And again, I felt really great. It gave me the fuzzies again because he was going to see Ben Clock the next week when we got the email with that support notice. He was going to see him next week, and he was trying to get on Clockworks. So he's like, all caps, he wrote me back. He's like, "You made my fucking day, man."
Oh, that's
And I was
incredible.
just like,
Unreal.
Those moments, they're better than money.
Yeah, for sure.
Like,
for sure.
And these connections are like, it started as a Vancouver thing, connecting people here, and now these connections are starting to be.
You're spreading the threads around.
Out and around. And like when I went down to LA, I connected with 2 people there. I brought them both to play the Groundwerk goodbye party. And one is doing a remix for me right now. One I just released, Phys Ed, I just released his music. It's pre-order right now. Drops on Friday. Really great release, getting great support. Slam supports it.
Yeah. By the time this comes out, it'll be out. So I'll link it all below. You can click on it.
You can get it on Beatport. It's an exclusive right now.
So cool.
And now I'm starting to like reach outward and go beyond Vancouver.
Yeah, because you've had that support.
Yeah.
You've been lifted up. Now you can spread your tentacles.
Yeah.
Keep on going.
Yeah.
It's
Very
cool.
validating.
So I don't know what it all turns into yet.
Yeah.
I'm just always, for myself, especially if I get nervous or anxious about it, which I do. Any of you out there like struggle with anxiety, like a lot of us do.
Absolutely.
I try and focus, first breathe, and then focus on what's the very next step. Not what's out here. I'm going to keep moving in that direction to whatever flag is planted on the horizon. But what's the very next step and the step after that? And just, okay. So, I want to do this. And you're like, oh, I want to have a big label and do all this stuff. It's like, well, no. Let's start getting people from here and then getting people from there and then start actually spending a little money hiring remixers and like investing in the label and what's the next little bit and just keep adding until maybe you've got something.
You never know especially with art, you never know what's that one thing that's going to resonate with everybody and take off. You just don't it's like
and we were talking about this before, is like the only way to get there is to never stop.
Just
keep bullheaded enough to just never stop.
Hard work trumps talent sometimes. Gonna say it. That's so. With those tiny micro steps, one of them being production, one of them being the label. Sitting down and actually doing the production. You've got so many on the go, so many to come. Kind of, I don't know. I want to say like, not walk me through your process, but kind of like when you're creating, do you have kind of like a big picture in mind, or are you literally doing those little baby steps of like, I want to just make this today?
I don't know.
Okay, that's a great answer. That's all right.
No, I do have goals. I do have targets I want to hit sometimes. I love those moments going into the studio without a direction sometimes, but like tomorrow I'm going to the studio with the goat, and we've already wrote a track in the summer and we know exactly who we want to send it to, somebody I opened for this year. So there's a warm connection there, but we need another track to go with it. So tomorrow we know we need to write that track.
Okay, interesting.
We have no idea what that's going to be.
No.
We know the process we're going to use to get there.
Okay.
Another kind of sporting analogy, I just saw a meme in the last like 2 days, and it was like, you can say I'm going to go fishing tomorrow, but you can't say I'm going to catch 3 fish tomorrow.
Totally.
So it's like, you know what the mission is. We've done it before. But we have no idea what it's going to be.
Interesting.
And that's exciting to me. That's
so cool.
Again, living on the edge of your creativity. Like not knowing what the result's going to be. That's, to me, that's the most exciting thing.
In a situation like this specific one, would you say that you're going to make a track that maybe would blend with that track, or exist in the same space, I guess, thematically or
universal?
They should sound like they go together.
Could go together.
We spent a lot of the day today listening to other tracks on the label, so that we kind of get an idea where the label's at and their range. So we know that we can be in the wheelhouse of that variety. And I
maybe even improve on it or whatever. Give them something special.
So be in the wheelhouse, but not copy. That's the tricky, not tricky, but that's kind of the mission. The process. But if we wanted to get like super nerdy technical about like production,
let's go. I'm trying to learn.
So
got my notebook.
I'm like, I've gotten it down to where I can get 80, sometimes either 80% of a track or all the way to a master in about 2 hours.
Incredible.
Or 2.5 maybe.
Yeah, it's very difficult. Good for you.
A lot of them are bad. but I have to make all the bad ones in order to get to the good ones.
Yeah.
I find. So to me, it became about finishing things, no matter, like seeing it through to the end, no matter if the song is going to get released or not. The investment of time has become so short that I can afford to go through a number of them. It's like just iterating and iterating and iterating until you get something that's worth it, and then putting that out there. Iterating until you get something that's worth it and put it out.
Yeah, so you like create a track to fruition, and then you kind of put it like, it's almost like instead of being a perfectionist where you're going to keep tinkering with it till it's there. Yeah. You're like, okay, I created this track. It's kind of, it's got full song structure. It's got every layer it needs to have. It's completely mastered. Yeah. It's done. Yeah. Is it anything? Like it? Do I not like it? Whatever. Toss it, not toss it, like move it over to the side.
Though.
Start another one with the same idea, maybe add different things. You know, I'm going to try this instead of that. Yeah. I'm going to try this with this instead of this, and this. Or, you know, so, okay, cool. That's very cool.
And a lot of it is happy accident. A lot of it is very organic within that. And I will road test the songs. Like almost every song gets played out in a gig. Yeah. Almost. Or at least the ones I really like. So that's how another way that I determine maybe what's good and what's not, or what needs another session. Yeah. Sometimes I'll do the thing in 2 hours, and then I'll come back to it 3 days later and I'll touch it up. And then it'll be done. So it's not necessarily everything's done in 2 hours, but like I'm not spending 3 weeks on a song. Right. Yeah. You used to.
Yeah, for sure.
But I don't have to anymore.
Because you're going from, you know, what's the word I'm looking for? Unconscious incompetence to conscious competence. You know, to unconscious competence. You know, like it's that whatever that scale is.
It's getting there. Yeah. I'm touching on unconscious competence now, which is really cool. That's a really neat feeling. Yeah. Yeah. So the process for me, I'm almost always starting with kick drum and bass, and I create a super loop, I call it. So I just make however long the phrase is going to be in the song, whether it's usually in techno, it's 1 bar. Sometimes even your whatever the main thing in your track is just half a bar and it loops in that bar. Techno is very rolling, repetitive that way. It's not like melodic stuff where they might take 8 bars to resolve and then turn around and come back again. It's just like loopy. So I create the super loop. It's a bar or maybe 4 bars at the most. And then I put all the sounds in it that are going to be in the entire song. And then I'll actually mix that loop, like go through my mixing process as I'm creating it, which is actually part of the process that I love the most, is mixing and getting the sounds to sound good or what I think is good. I've gotten pretty fast at that, and I really love that part of the process. So I'll mix it down, and then sometimes I'm putting a master on that. And if that loop gives me energy and I'm dancing just to that loop,
it's visceral.
Then I'm like, okay. And what I do is I extend it out to about either 5.5 to 6.5 minutes, and it's just like a solid chunk of the whole thing. And then what I do is I start to go and take things away. Yeah. So my process I would liken to having a raw block of marble, knowing what you would like the statue maybe to look like, and starting to chip away at the marble to reveal it. It's the same thing. So I have that big block. It all sounds the same. But I'm like, well, in the intro, I'm not going to have those playing, so I take them out. And then I want this to come in here, so I leave it in. But those 3 things shouldn't be playing, so I take them out. And then the track just builds like that. And then I'm dropping new things coming in. So it reveals itself as I go. And I found that to me, that's a very fast way to work.
Yeah, that's very, very interesting.
So it's like subtractive. Do you think Twitch numbers translate to club numbers?
No. Well,
meaning
not directly.
I have $50,000 on Twitch. Yeah, but I can't get 200 people into a club.
Yeah,
is that a thing?
Think so.
I think so for sure, because where are your followers?
Not necessarily in
your town. Yeah,
they could be all over the world, which is amazing and powerful. Yeah. So there's a step that needs to.
Yeah, and I think also, and I'm just thinking out. I'm thinking out loud here, but I think especially with Twitch and YouTube specifically, the audience is much younger most of the time.
Right.
Interesting.
And I think that might have a part to play in whether that translates into people showing up at a show where you have to be 19, 20, 21
I would almost
plus.
disagree with that, especially
I'm just spitballing. I'm just spitballing.
I think
right
especially on Twitch, it does not translate into actual numbers in front of you at a club.
Right.
And I would also go as far as to say is the demographic is older, and that's why they are on Twitch Music, and that's why they're watching you from at home.
Right.
Because they don't want to be in the club scene.
Right.
They don't want to be bumped around. They don't want to be
too.
around all the drunk young kids.
Right.
They want to be in the comfort of their home with the drink that they love and the artist that they love interacting with them.
Yeah.
That takes the whole experience to a different level. And I don't think that translates into numbers in front of you at the club. So all the work that you're putting into Twitch, you're growing Twitch. And I think that's very, very different than actually growing your career in real life. You know?
And I'm not saying that to denigrate Twitch. People who are
bad at all.
or
we're on Twitch.
Followers.
We're live on Twitch.
Great.
We're using it right now.
We love you.
It's amazing.
But it is different.
But again, where are these? I'm trying to just follow on the question of like,
how do we break past?
How do we break through, and how do we get through from being maybe playing locally or even regionally to playing internationally, or playing outside of your. Or being able to command a better rate as well, right?
Yeah.
Sure. Or make a living at it.
Yeah.
Like I don't for myself, I actually wouldn't want to be like really famous, but I would like this to be my job for a while.
Yeah. If you could make like, you know, 15 to 2,500 a gig and do that 3 times a month, that would be awesome. That'd be sick.
Sign me up.
You know what I mean?
I would do that, and then I would spend the free time with, you know, production and working on the label and finding new artists and maybe booking shows in my hometown and creating a night there that would hopefully get popular because of everything else that's going out.
I think too, and I just literally had a thought in my head, not Twitch, it's not social media per se, but I was just thinking about like Pete Tong, for example, with his radio show that's legendary for the last 20, 30 years or whatever it is. I definitely feel like for him, he's a great DJ, established producer, especially later in his career. But having the show and being a recognizable voice in the industry and also being a tastemaker and curator helped him do the DJing and production stuff, I think.
I shot up in Vancouver because of Groundwerk. Because I became a voice in the industry. Really by leading the thing. Not that I know anything more than anybody else, because I don't. And I used to say that every time when I would welcome people into the room on the mic, I would say, everybody in this room knows something you don't. So go find out what that is. Go talk to people.
Yeah, that's great.
I'm not the smartest guy in the world at all. But I knew what I could do and I did it. And that shot me up. People knew who I was, and I got bookings. I see... I'm seeing with quite a few people that they start their own brand and they start their own events. Not the easiest thing to do.
No.
Can be very financially scary. Can be financially rewarding, but it's a risk. I see that being an avenue where people create a party and they're the people at the center of it.
Yeah, I definitely know people who've done that.
So they are both booking people and playing themselves and creating their, you know, the hyper or this energy.
I mean, we could take Siavash with U+1, for example.
Or even like, Koji with Kumo, but now
Koji with Kumo.
Now that
taking a little break.
I
think Abera Tarani Ride the Rave. Kavolka was doing it for a little bit. On the techno scene. And booking great people around them. So that the party is great.
Plus you have your name on that booking. Too, right? It's like, oh, you open for all these DJs that are all international DJs. How'd you get that? It's my event.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? But like, it's the poster's a poster's a poster, right? You know,
you're
like,
there. Your audience
the guy
is in front of you.
The guy in Europe doesn't know it's your event per se. You know what I mean? I don't know. I'm just hypothetically, right? But
it's interesting.
Again, coming back to like why leave, I kind of, for me, I play as often as I can here. I would love to play it more just in general in my life, but I can't do that here because no one wants to see you every week. They just don't.
Exactly.
The audience isn't big enough. Which is fair. But I've done everything. I've checked all the boxes. I've played every venue I want to play. I've played with every DJ in town I want to play with. I produce with every DJ in town I want to produce with.
Checked all these boxes.
The only thing I haven't done is run and owned a venue.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And I actually don't want to do that.
Not here, not in the city.
One, not in the city.
Yeah, not in the city.
Pricey.
Respect to those who do.
Yeah,
absolutely.
There's a glass ceiling there for sure.
Thank you for doing that.
Thank you so much for
We
doing
appreciate it. Love having places to play. You're doing an incredible service to the city and the scene. But that's not for me.
Mm-hmm.
I want to be the artist first.
Mm-hmm.
And so that was like, well,
that's your desire.
Yeah.
You have to go chase that.
Got to go chase that for a bit. And
yeah.
We'll see where it goes. Either it ends up like,
I mean, you'll always have a home here, so it doesn't matter.
You.
Yeah.
Please come back.
I think you're safe either way, but I mean, definitely wish all the success for you there. I can't wait to go see you play there.
We'll be there front and center.
Yeah.
So I'm landing in Budapest in Hungary and working my way out from there.
Yeah.
I already have some offers to play in other countries and cities.
Yeah. Very cool.
Around there, and I'm just gonna go jump into the scene and meet all the people I can meet.
Yeah.
Yacht Week 2024.
Yeah.
Let's go.
It's gonna take a little bit. So you might not hear from me for a while. I'm gonna go quiet for a bit.
Yeah.
And then we'll see what happens.
Yeah.
That's
see
great.
who I meet and who
You've
I talk
done
to.
it once, you can do it again.
Keep an eye out. I have an EP dropping on Friday on Beatport on Resource Records. It's called Warp Drive EP, and I'm really proud of a couple of the songs on there. And I haven't played some of them out yet, so it'll be the first time hearing them.
Mm-hmm.
Sweet will be when that releases. Also on Friday, the latest Groundwerk, my label release, comes out. Phys Ed from LA with his automatic EP, which is getting incredible feedback in our promo mailouts.
Nice.
You get the list of who's supporting it, and it's
nice.
So cool.
The feedback is really great.
Yeah.
Nice.
So really stoked on that, and lots more music to come.
Mm-hmm.
Like I said, I'm in the studio tomorrow, and
even though you're leaving,
in
like a
couple of days.
It was supposed to be. I was supposed to be leaving tomorrow. I'm actually going to leave next week.
Still
a few things to button up here before I go, but I'm going.
Yeah.
And I was going to be gone tomorrow. I was going to do this tonight. I was supposed to be in the studio today. Because my dear friend the Goat is in town, and there was a chance to be in the studio with him, so I was like, I gotta do that.
Gotta do that.
Yeah, priorities.
So lots of music to come, and we're aiming high with this EP, so hopefully it comes out.
Very cool.
If it comes out on the label I want it to come out on, it's gonna be really
nice,
really, really good.
Well, I think that's a great place to end. Yeah,
absolutely.
Perfect. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for having me on.
Thank you.
Yeah, that was super fun. Yeah.
We will see
and
you.
Thanks for tuning in.
We've learned a lot of things today. Do we have any questions, you think? Or
questions?
I haven't been on the... For sure.
Anyways.
On that bombshell.
Thank you.
Fantastic.
I appreciate you. Yeah. Please follow him on all the socials. Everything's going to link down below.
We'll link them all, obviously, in the recordings as she does, because she's so good at this stuff.
Yeah. And follow us. Please subscribe, because that is how we bring more of this to you.
Yeah. We're lucky right now because all the guests that we bring on are
phenomenal,
great friends of ours.
Oh yes.
So we're gonna run out of friends soon. So in order to get people we're not friends with, we might have to start paying.
Yeah, there we go. All right. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.